See, I'm Bob Fetterman. The date is Saturday, August 30th, 2014. The Midwest Skydiving Reunion in Michigan. And I wanted to tell some stories about skydiving. And I started skydiving in '63. I took my training, but I didn't jump until March of '64. And how I got started is I was at a bar on a Sunday night after karate practice, and I heard a guy bragging that he'd been in a nudist colony that day to pick up some skydivers. So I picked up my beer and I went down and talked to him, and I says, "Hey," I says, "where do they do this skydiving stuff? I've always wanted to do that." He says, "Up in Lake Geneva at the drag strip. The plane takes off on the drag strip and lands the skydivers, and then there's a bleacher right across from the drag strip where people can sit and watch the skydivers land on the other side of the drag strip." And he had a starter shirt on, a black and white, a flag guy, and he went to pick up the jumpers in the nudist colony that was jumping about 20 miles away. And so I went back home, and next couple of days I'm back in karate class, and I'm telling Jim Bohr, who was my buddy, and we were practicing for the World Karate Championships in Chicago in the stadium in 1963. And I says, "Hey," I says, "I found out where they do this skydiving stuff." I says, "We got to go look." He says, "Ah, you're crazy, Bob." And that next Saturday, that week, and the next Saturday, we went up to Lake Geneva, and we went up to this drop zone, and we're laying in the ground, on the grass, and we're looking up, and these three guys, they're all really good skydivers, and they all died skydiving. I mean, one of them was D60, Jim Stoyas. So he was around a long time. Connie O'Rourke, D200. And anyway, three of them jumped out of an airplane, and they went down to about 1,800 feet, 1,500 feet, opened their 1.6s, colorful parachutes, and I went, and you can see real good from 1,800 feet. So I'm looking up at them, and they're right over the top of us. So I says, "Boy," I says, "I got to do that." I said, "That is fantastic. Did you see that?" He says, "You're crazy, Fetterman. You're crazy." So we went to the back home shortly after that, and we went to the karate tournament, which was a couple weeks later, and I got disqualified for unnecessary roughness, and we were fighting in the brown belt division, but we were black belt qualified because the teacher always kept his students one belt below their qualifications. And Bohr took third place in the brown belt division. So we went back to the dojo the next day or so, and the teacher, the sensei, told Bohr he promoted Bohr to black belt. And he said, "Fetterman," he said, "I'm going to hold you back to the North American Championships in October." This was in August of '63. And I said to myself, only to myself, not to the teacher, "Screw you, I'm going skydiving." I didn't want to, insult the teacher on the dojo because he pounded the crap out of me. And anyway, I rolled up my gi and walked out and never looked back. Went skydiving, went up there a week later and took my training, and it was too windy to jump. And it was $35, so that was a lot of money in those days. So I went back home and spent the money, and I didn't get around to the winter time. It's just fastly approaching. And I didn't jump until March. I made my first jump in March of '64. So by the end of the year, I'd had over 100 jumps. And I went into that nudist colony. My 40th jump, I made a jump into that nudist colony. And Bohr went on to make a name for himself skydiving, or not in karate, I mean. And one night about 1965, I found him drunk in a tavern. He just broke up with his girlfriend, and he didn't even care about living or dying. He said, "I'll go skydiving with you." So I went to where he lived. I knew where he lived, and I was a pretty powerful guy in those days. I just picked him and the mattress up and threw him over my shoulder and ran down the stairs, threw him in the back of my station wagon, and trained him on the way to the airport, which is 50 miles away, so I had a little time to train him. He's laying there with a hangover on his own mattress, back to my station wagon, and he'd never been on an airplane before. So we get there and it's too windy to jump for students. I had a Paracommander, and no, I had a 1.6. I think I had a 1.6 at the time, and I'm going back a lot, 50 years. So anyway, if I get off tangent, I'll just come back, correct myself, come back. Anyway, let's see, where was I? I'm an old man, so I kind of lose my train of thought a little bit.
Went to the airport.
Oh, we went to the airport. Okay, well, it's too windy for students to jump. So I said, well, I come all the way out here, I'm going to jump this guy anyway. Because he's a superb athlete. He's we were lifting weights together for a couple of years before we started karate. So yeah, I knew he was in real good shape. And he could take a pounding better than I could. So I put him, I dropped him, I spotted him so he'd land in the cornfield. And he wouldn't get drunk. I had 150 jumps at the time, so I was pretty proficient. I had a C license, and I put him in the cornfield, and he landed about 20 rows in, and I cannonballed past him in free fall after I put him out and opened probably about 1,000 feet and cranked around turns until I landed, and then I was standing there watching him land. He had his feet together, knees together, elbows in, and just like I taught him. And he landed and rolled and jumped up, and he says, "When can we do that again?" Or he says, "How soon can we do that again?" And he was hooked. He's probably had 7,000 jumps. He was the chief pilot for Chicago Skydive. And he shot himself in the face with a .44. He was kind of reckless with guns, so he's no longer with us. But back in '68, we were jumping at Hinckley, the old Hinckley, not the new Hinckley. And the guy that owns the farm, the new Hinckley, the farm, he come out there where we were jumping and says, "Why don't you come try jumping in my airport?" So Jim and I got in the plane and found out where it was at, and we went and jumped into Hinckley. And that was the first jump made at the Hinckley Drop Zone. So we founded the Hinckley Drop Zone. But we went back, and I had all the student gear, and I was in charge of teaching all the students. Oh, the year was 1968. And I had all the student gear, and I was in charge of training all the students. I made $25 a piece for all the students, and I tended bar for my folks, and I had a daytime job, so I made pockets full of money. Anyway, I had all these student rigs and everything ready to go, and Bob Alm and Louis Ogg were both riggers, and they were both experienced, expert jumpers. And we had some bad words with them because they were safety minded, and we were the rogues. We were the Hinckley bad guys. So they come out there to jump, and they come over there to the new drop zone. And I told them, I took them aside and I says, hey, I'll give you all the parachute stuff, and you can have all the training and take care of all the airplane stuff, but you got to remember one thing. We are going to do exactly what we want to do, when we want to do it, anytime we want to do it. And you cannot tell us what we can do and what we can't do. And they said, yeah. So that was the birth of Hinckley, and that's how Hinckley became known throughout the world. And that's it.